one before, it was really hard to see the screen. And
It's
I thought
better
it'd
now.
be better if you could just see the screen only even.
We upgraded to 1080p, so.
Okay.
Have you got
Maybe
over
that'll
here by
help.
any chance?
No.
Any shots over here?
Sorry.
All right. Okay. For those who don't know me, I'm Steve McDonald. I'm with the Michael Smith Laboratories on campus here. Of course, you guys all read the description of what we're talking about today. Basically, we're just covering monitoring and alerting. And sort of what my take is sort of what we're doing within the Michael Smith Laboratories for coverage of our monitoring solution. So, start off, typical from what many of you would already be doing, sort of covered what are we monitoring? So, the standard fare, desktop backup, all that kind of jazz, HP cluster, GPU cluster, or UPSs, etc. So, now with the sort of the expansion of services going forward, as we start to outsource more of our, say, IT or services on CompuCanada's cloud, Westgrid's HPC, virtual services. We're slowly starting to migrate over to EduCloud. Also monitoring the Fastmail service. Just so as we have more folks who are, say, calling in what's up with their issues, we've tied in some of our monitoring to sort of watch and scale the bulletin site from UBCIT. So that's sort of how we're addressing that monitoring aspect. And then, of course, the Azure Cloud, AWS, and DigitalOcean, which we have some stuff on there as well. So now for network monitoring per se, really it's only down to, we are using 3 different tools. Cisco ASDM, Transmogrifier, and Spiceworks. A lot of those are, with the exception of the Spiceworks, are pseudo real-time, and it's more reactionary than anything. And there's not really any good hooks for us to get in there. But with that, we're doing our basic bandwidth monitoring, and just covering the basic ideas of what you guys would be covering, as well as for Spiceworks, we're doing our auto discovery. So as things pop on the network, we're alerted of that fact. So now for application monitoring, it's a little bit more creative, a little bit more interesting than the network per se. We have a Cacti deployment, as well as Vince previously showed at a previous session, our OpsView Core, Nagios, which many of you already have, Google Analytics for all of our web analytics monitoring, New Relic, that's sort of a new beast for us. We're using their free service. So I don't know if any of you have used New Relic before. It's okay. Visuals are pretty. But it is sort of limited in what one can actually do. Monit is also a new thing that we're doing for all of our server daemon monitoring. Mostly is the daemon running. And site uptime for simple ping tests outside of our network. Now, the type of metrics that we're looking for each one of those, you'd be your standard fare of like CPU, memory utilization, disk I/O, network consumption, and as we have both physical and virtual, and across the platforms such as like ESXi hypervisors, we have some KVM hypervisors, and on bare metal, mostly CentOS 6 servers. Now, into New Relic is really I don't know if any of you are using New Relic right now, but for us, it's sort of a new toy that we've been using. The server monitor aspect of it is free. It is limited. There's also a light application monitor. Basically, it allows you to probe your websites. You can do some basic checks of MySQL if you're running database off of it. Some very basic checks. We have not paid for their more in-depth application deep dive analysis. So with that, you can start getting really nitty-gritty. So that would actually sort of work alongside your, say, Google Analytics. The thing that we really like about it is great visualizations. It's pretty. It works pretty good. The time frame that you normally work with is sort of, it's a bit of a delay of between 5 to 10 minutes that we found. And some difficulties would be extending of the functionality. It's just not there for the free support. So with that, I'm just going to switch just to show you here. So basically into New Relic, they got a whole bunch of fancy dashboards and stuff, and a bunch of product offerings. But the ones that we're kind of using and interested in is their server branch, which basically gives us basic ideas of what our servers are doing. If I can switch over, it's hard to do. Let me just.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I know. That's the split screens, right? So just one second. Hello. There we go. Okay. So basically it gives you your basic dashboard, whoop-de-doo. Cacti, you can do this same kind of thing. It is very simplistic in nature. It gives you your CPU, your disk I/O, memory at a quick glance. You can then set your thresholds based on that for basic alerting and whether you wanted to be alerted.
Yeah.
So,
question. The CPU here is so I noticed that you have a multi-cores. How do you know how many core do you use it?
yeah, so for that you would then go, not from here, but when you actually dive in, it will then give you, now for the core specifically, it'll give you, but per core, I don't believe it gives you a per core, it just gives you a summarized of all of your cores.
So this is an internal view, so that an agent must be running
Yes.
on it. Okay.
So yeah, thanks for clarifying. So with that, we've deployed, it comes with a small agent. They have for Windows, Linux, and Mac servers. You simply install it, and it starts slurping up this basic metric data and pumps it out to a server there. So we have this. We also have our Nagios agents on there as well, and OpsView also pipes into that as well. So with that, you can go. It's like I said, it's pretty. It gives you some basic metrics at a glance. But if you actually needed to say go into the deeper aspects of why something, why is a specific process chewing up all the RAM or why? No, it doesn't do that. It just gives you very top level access. So this really, for us, is just to sort of augment or supplement what we already have, which is in our ops view. So besides that, really, you can go to the basic process. It'll just give you a breakdown, and you can play a little bit with these graphs and stuff, add some notes, etc. With that, the one selling point of this, which was ideal over the others, which I'll get into in the next slide, is the ability to access the alerts through a mobile app. So quickly, I can see on a mobile app how that works. Can't really show you on here, and I can't display that on here, but it's got a pretty decent mobile app that tells you right at a quick glance, okay, how am I doing? What's down? What's up? Who's chewing up all this space or whatever? So yes.
Quick question: do you need to open your firewall for the communication?
Well, that's part of the agent. The agent talks to the server, which is outside of our edge networks, and says, "Hey, I have this. It's got a specialized key. It does encrypted key transfer. It communicates through SSL. It talks."
But it's a push type.
Yeah, the agent pushes.
So that's why you don't.
Yes. So what would happen is you would say, there are cases where, say, the machine's locked up. It's got a check saying, hey, it has sentries checks saying, hey, I haven't heard from this guy for 5 minutes. And then we'll get alerted. Lost communication with, so say if we had a network blip that was like five minutes, and it starts hitting our threshold of say what's acceptable, it will then shoot me an alert say, hey, I've lost network connectivity with you. And then either I use OpsView, which is actually within our data center, within the SPPH, to see, oh, is it online or is there an interruption between us, like VCNet and like various data centers? I think it's like spread across like the Midwest and Eastern United States, most of the data centers. So anyways, that's sort of just what I wanted to show. This is just complimentary stuff. So I'm going to close
what do you mean
that.
by complement to your OpsView?
So
what's
OpsView really does more of our main checks. So like we're
why
talking.
you couldn't continue using OpsView and why you have to pick another software? You headache.
Because, well, good question. The reason why is right now we're using OpsView Core, which is not clustered. And if my say host that's hosting my check went down, I wouldn't necessarily get notified about that. If my checker went down, so I wanted a checker of my checker, and this is my checker of my checker. To ensure both in terms of what the health is within my data center, as well as from an external source saying, hey, I'm communicating with your data center, can I see it, is it up? So I wanted that sort of visibility, both in and out.
Can you set norms? Because, for a compute server, it's not atypical to have 100% roofing of the CPU.
Yeah,
as
so
opposed
that's
to your web servers. So in other words, you have different limits for different types of services.
Yeah, and that would be set within your tuning of the thresholds on say both services. This does a very more basic check of like the main points of resources, system monitoring. We would set our baseline. So like on a heavy compute cluster, we probably don't want to be, we want to move the threshold very high, especially during operation times, because otherwise it'd be going off all the time, right? They'd be peaking, running some Java process that takes up almost 100% of the RAM, that kind of thing. So yeah, so tailoring the checker, the process checker, with what the conditions of your server is ideal. Where you say, oh, if it's out of operational hours or if it's out of the standard norm, then we say, okay, now we have to look at it. As opposed to, oh no, that's standard. It's always almost tagged execute every day. That kind of thing.
There's no reason why you couldn't run multiple op views. Like
Yeah.
op
Oh yeah.
servers.
Yeah. Now with that said, that's a good question, John. The reason why we chose this was a relatively new kid on town. They had some really great visualizations. We wanted, hey, let's try it out. And the other thing too is free. I didn't want to pay anybody. They provided it for free. Mind you, they get my basic metrics in terms of what my servers are and how they're performing. But other than that, that's what I want. I didn't want to pay because if I do, say, a cloud provider, they're going to charge typically for it, right? And especially if it was OpsView, even with their Pro, I would have to pay for that kind of service. So it wasn't like a freebie. So this was a freebie.
We do it with multiple, not just
Yeah.
servers. So
Yeah, and I wanted it outside of UBC. That was the other thing. That was a main requirement, is I really wanted it outside of all of our networks here and get that metric.
yeah, run additional one.
Yeah, that's right.
See, so.
Yeah, I could have set one in my house, but I didn't want to do that. This was already there, right? So and I didn't want to pay for it. So, anyways, so that's at a quick glance, that was new Relic. Now, just going over, so OpsView Core is our mainstay, our main meal for monitoring for the application stack. So with that, we are having to make a hard business decision of moving over to the Pro just because they've changed how Core operates. It used to be free unless you want to pay for support. Now they've made it almost kind of useless. They've discontinued the main features of availability of being able to spin up as many devices as you want to only 25. Right. Anyways, it was kind of a bad move, but I guess good for them, not good for us. So basically we have to fork them some money. One benefit, though, if we do make that move from core to pro, is the fact that we get way better visualizations. With the core, they provide no dashboard. There's no dashboard. You get a basic list. Kind of like Nagios, you get a big list of all the things that you're checking, but nothing that you can actually tailor or tune and say, these core servers or these core services, I want to have up on my screen or up on my phone at a moment's glance. Like I want to be able to see that. You got to pay for that. They don't provide that. And that free one.
So this is the main reason you have to go for the new software because it's 25
Yes,
devices.
well, that and the dashboard. The gain is the dashboard, it's my time, etc., right? So one has to sort of leverage that. The other thing, too, is 100% compatibility with Nagios. There's like umpteen, I don't know how many, it's like the Apple App Store, right? They got like so many apps, plugins, whatever, that you can integrate. And so essentially, OSSEC can use all of them, basically all of them. And so for that kind of compatibility, for those who've already, say, deployed extensively Nagios plugins, you can just retune them and be able to utilize them as you would normally for Nagios.
What's the cost?
Oh, for this? We were looking at, I think it was like, we got about 250 devices, and we were running at, I think, 4,000 to 5,000 per year.
Is it a per device?
No, they sell them in groups. They sell them in bundles. So like you go so the pro, and then you jump to the other tier of enterprise, 500 plus, and then it's a different pricing structure.
For your hypervisor, that's one device, and then all your VMs or other devices. Or?
No. So it's what you decide that you're going to plug into here as
Per VM.
yeah. So it'd be per VM.
Per agent.
Okay.
Yeah, be an agent on that VM. So conceptually, you can have an insane number of VMs, and you can eat through your device list very fast.
Or if you were really stingy, you could have one.
Or you could be stingy. That's right.
Pull all the data out.
Oh, I'm sure they figured out a way. Well, like you say, we haven't deployed it, so those kind of like finer details we'd have to like kind of dive into. But anyways, one nice thing too is the back. Also, like the new Relic was the ability to have the mobile app. That's a big thing. Checking emails or going through Logwatch. Joe, you can do that. I don't like necessarily do that every day. I don't have the time to do that every day.
Well, no, I mean, you just accumulate a lot of monitor scripts.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
That's just it, right? So it's one way to digest it into palatable chunks, right? And then the other one was Jira integration. For a three-man IT shop, myself, Kevin, and Vince, it works out very cheap for us to go through activation for their Jira help desk. It's like, I think it cost me about $20 a year. I think it was $20 US a year for a three-man agent shop with unlimited clients, unlimited client support with 3 IT agents.
So I don't understand how it integrates. You mean
so now with that,
once something happens,
they can file a ticket.
okay.
You can categorize actions based on, say, I have a certain category, I consider this highly critical, you can immediately file a ticket with that alert.
Okay.
So from there, we can then proceed on it. Rather than me manually doing it, I
So
can
it's
then,
as if it's an automated problem
Yes,
report,
it's an automated-
and then it's up to you to go in and
yes,
serve.
and then I
that
could
ticket.
say, delegate that to Vince, delegate that to Kevin, and we follow, and then we have the history
right.
through our
Gotcha.
Jira help, through our Jira help desk. So it sort of adds that bridge
Right.
automation. So just have to do one less step.
Yeah.
Right. So now, alert and notifications, big things. Email, mobile alerts. Slack surprisingly has actually become even more common way for us to receive alerts and notifications now, especially because it's the amount of integrations that you can now add. Twitter, RSS feeds, UBC bulletins. Actually, it's quite meaningful. It comes in really snappy. Google Calendar, whatever, right? So, and of course, web dashboards, that kind of thing. So for us, when we're looking at these kind of things, we wanted something that can be, mobile because, I'm at late at night or I'm moving. I don't want to manually go and check on things. I want to be able to have, say, core critical services that would monitor or send me alerts, but I don't want to storm. And that's what the Nagios, I'm trying to avoid, is I don't want a storm of alerts coming from Nagios, because it just, if it's a storm every day, I stop listening to the storm. So it's that whole management of the alerts. So going now to the Holy Grail. What we have is not perfect. And it definitely is missing a lot of key things that I wish we could have. And one of it is the intelligent alerting. I haven't found a product yet that can do the intelligent alerting. We do sort of have availability and uptime monitoring. We do have our, with like Cacti and stuff, we have our key system resource metric monitoring, bandwidth capacity, of course, automatic discovery monitors we sort of have with our Spiceworks. Smart classification, mapping, and tagging, that would be really nice. Spiceworks can do a little bit of that, but we're still looking or trying to find a suite that can help us flush out our network, give us a view of full topography of our network, all the devices that are on the network, and really start tagging them intelligently and say these are printers with this SNMP type of traffic, and really kind of flush it out, versus me having to manually go in and maintain some wiki page, which we kind of do right now.
What do you automatically discover? You mean a new device shows up?
New devices show
or
up,
a new
printers,
service
etc.
shows up? Or
Well, yeah. Well, that would be one of the ideal checks, saying, "Hey, you just have a new daemon that's suddenly running on your server.
Yeah.
Was that anticipated? No, right? I've been compromised, or something like that, right? So it'd be like some back door that's been opened up, or I had a research grad that had pseudo privilege, decided to install something on one of the compute servers. He shouldn't have. He did. Some kind of remoting back door. He wanted access because it was more convenient. He didn't want to go through VPN, whatever it is. That kind of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily, because they need, depending on the researchers, they need that kind of package handling and build the ability to install their own packages. I want to be at least kept abreast of what they're doing or installing on the server. Of course, in some shape or form, like LogWatch, I will get a note on that. But when you have dozens and dozens and dozens of servers, it's very easy to miss it.
right, that's an internal view. Like it knows that all of a sudden a port has opened up.
Yeah, a port. Yeah, so I want something. That's right. So I want whether a new daemon got started that wasn't there before, or a new port, those kind of things. That kind of discovery, it'd be nice for me to be able to have. I'm saying I don't have that right now. I would like to have that. And of course, good visualizations and reports. So when I go to my director or the faculty meeting, I can say, hey, this is how we are grading our IT for today. This is what we're doing. And we can start coming out with some better business discussions of, is this something that we should be doing or not doing? That kind of leads into the real-time historical views and the business smarts of extrapolating our business, our core research business within our department. So out of this, I'd love to get the deliverables of, also just identifying our fires and storms more quickly and intelligently, having informed management insight, improve our ability to do future planning and budgeting, and really just whatever suite or packages that we use is the ease of tuning our alert thresholds. So, and it's asking a lot. The gaps. Okay, right now, definitely what we don't have is good digest. We get a lot of content coming in, a lot of noise. And we don't have a really good way of synthesizing that noise and really focusing our efforts. We just got so much that sometimes you start to ignore it, and that's not good. We don't have intelligent dashboards. We have some of like Cacti and stuff, but really I'd like to be able to piece various aspects from the different suites and be able to intelligently put them together into like my dashboard. What's important, the main important things. Glass problems and performance, real time. Right now we don't have access also to our switches. We sort of do it through Transmogrifier, but we can't do any kind of IDS or anything on our networks. They won't let us span ports, that kind of stuff. So really, there's a lot of stuff that's going on our networks that we don't know, and we just don't have access to.
And ports as an echo traffic to another.
Yeah, that's right. Being able to like have it so we can know, oh, hey, by the way, you have BitTorrent clients, so probably be good to turn those off so we don't get those DMCAs, right? More annoying than anything. And then good automated reporting and good network topology and maps. So this kind of leads now into DevOps and SIOPs. Vince coined that. What we're really looking at is really retooling how we do IT in our department. We may be doing a shared part-time position with a bound for petition. And one of the things is really to improve the science and IT coordination that goes on. And tied into that would be, or actually onion skinning over it would be the monitoring of how is our IT and services and servers performing from a DevOps and SIOPs perspective. So we know that we have all these problems, we have all these gaps, we're really trying to figure out how we can overcome them. One is, addressing our lack of time, money constraints is a big one. Also technology. The technology, if we are looking, Michael and I were talking about earlier about coming up with a matrix of all the different monitoring solutions that are out there, of coming up with a good matrix of this covers this, but this doesn't cover that, and this covers that, and this doesn't cover this. And so you end up with a multitude of different open source or commercial where that none of them actually really do all of it or cover everything. So you're doing different tools for different things. And because of that, you get this sort of separation, split brain where this knows that, but that doesn't know this. And we can't tie that together to come up with a good business view of the whole picture. And for us right now, because we swallowed the Center for High Throughput Biology, there was dozens of servers and with its own individual monitoring solutions. So we're looking at basically turning or retiring some of those and incorporating into a more unified one across both groups. Well, the one big group now. Now, future plans is we need, across our two operating groups, we need a good Splunk and syslog server. We sort of have our own, but we don't have them together. We also haven't yet, but we're planning to, is install the Elk stack. And that's where we can start doing more creative searches and really dive deeper into our logs and know what's going on. And hopefully we can, from there, extrapolate either trends or get alerted better when there are pending issues that, say, our traditional service checks are not actually able to see.
Are there any sort of complementary, I recognize the problem you're having. Mm-hmm. Part of the problem is that everybody's talking their own, but you can sort of break down your problem into one of gathering information into one place and then interpreting the information. So one way, of course, is syslogging, trying to gather all that information. But are there any services out there that can then pick through all that, and offer all that other top-level stuff like visualization or the alerting and things like that?
Yeah,
Rather than having this service uses its own agent, and iOS uses that agent, and so you have a lot of this cross-talking.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's what we're trying to bring more unification within the services, the service checks. And some of these suites that's where we're kind of looking at is, can we build our own dashboard for us with our own search and our own requirements that sort of will talk to all of these other aspects and kind of pull it in together. So with that said, we're going to be retiring our old Nagios server, fine our tuning our alerts, because even right now we have too many storms, too many false and misleading or false positives on things. Also a big shift in culture for us is really start looking at it from a research perspective. There's the IT perspective, and then there's the research perspective. And we got to really make sure that our IT is best serving our research community.
I like the way your head twitches when you say
Yeah. Well, it is. It's tough. It's tough because it's a complete switch, right? So yeah, my neck is sore. And some of the other things is like we're looking at Manage IQ. This is now because as we continue to grow in other services that are outside of our normal control, like CompuCanada's cloud or whatever the services, Westgrid or Azure, AWS, we need to be able to bridge that or connect in there and be able to intelligently see, okay, how are we doing on, we know what we're doing within MSL data centers, how are we doing on VSS, or how are we doing over at Azure for that. So bringing those more close, even though they're separate from us, getting intelligent data from them as well. So, and then this is sort of, before I use up all the time, because I know Michael wants to talk, we're just looking at really just improve our automation. And that's automation for our alerts, automation for our monitors, and really we become less of a bottleneck. And we can make more intelligent, intuitive decisions based on that. So anyways, that's my spiel. Thank you, Jai. Any questions? Yes, Ian.
It's not a question, but just more data.
Or critique.
The syslog, the ADS or ASDNs will barf out to your syslog server.
Yeah.
In a useful manner.
Yeah.
Get more information from them than.
Oh yeah. Well, we do our ASDMs. We do pipe to a syslog server right now. By the volume, the sheer volume, and it's digesting that volume, right, to more meaningful chunks. Okay.
Yeah, then you have to write the scripts that go over
Yeah, and you have to write
that data to
scripts.
actually understand what the heck it was doing in the first place.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, right? Is tooling it and understanding the whole protocol stack. It's a lot of, each one's a science of its own, right? So, yeah. Michael. Get out of your way. Yeah. All right.
Make a switch, video switch. And yeah, change to the HDMI.
Yeah. I'm just looking for this one.
There.
All right, so similar idea as Stevens. I'm Michael Sanderson from Computer Science Department. So he had all the nice slides. Mine are really boring. So let him go first, so you guys stayed awake for it. So what are we monitoring? We started out years and years ago just wanting to understand what was going on with the network side of it. When we built this building and the EC and mechanical were involved through ISIS, there were a bunch of network links that actually went through to their buildings as well, and we were mildly concerned about changes that would result in excess traffic in ways that shouldn't be happening. So we put in an intermapper for us at that point and started out using that. So we were looking at switches and link capacity. Because we had the capability at the time, we put in fiber links or fiber taps to our backbone that allow us to get network traffic flows across our backbone link. So this is similar to Michael's request for span ports. We managed to do it before IT really complained about it, because we were routing internally at that time when we put our taps in. We monitor servers, so we have physical stuff and in-house VMs. We do not yet have anything significant that we're running on VSS or EduCloud, though we are looking at that space. We get printers. We are collecting system logs. We make use of a tool called OSSEC that is an agent-based thing that will look at logs on a box and send them off to a central agent. And we're starting to look at application performance primarily in the web space. So tools we use, Intermapper, ASDM to an extent. Argus is the tool that we use for our network traffic flows. We're using PRTG in a very limited sense because of it's a commercial product. They basically pay it's an SNMP product, but you pay based on the number of things you're querying. And we previously had some MRTG stuff running, querying switches for flow information, for utilization information on links. System and application monitoring stuff. We're using Intermapper fairly extensively right now. One of the real drawbacks for it is that there's not a lot of direct support for applications. You can create things of your own, but there's not a lot of community development for it anymore. The reporting aspect of it is not existent as far as I can tell, even in newer versions of it. So OSSEC, we are using Google Analytics for web stuff. When I was looking at Ceph and how to make use of that, I put in a small Ganglia installation, just used multicast for it to find out what its capabilities were. And we had used that for one of our clusters, yeah.
Way back.
And it's basic system kind of information in terms of load, memory, utilization, stuff like that. Late last fall, Anthony pointed us towards a product called Zabbix. And I've got a test installation using their VM image. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. It's looking to be like an interesting product. Right now, all we're doing is email and dashboard kind of stuff as far as our alerts and notification. We keep telling the department that we're not 24/7, and so we're trying not to be 24/7. Not totally successful on that. So for Zabbix, it has its own agent that you can install. They do have a fairly good set of OSs that they have the agent for. It will do SNMP queries, and you can create your own if you have certain things you want tested. It'll do open port kind of tests as well. So if you have an FTP server that you want to see whether it's up, it can at least check to see whether the port is open. I haven't looked to see whether it'll actually look for banner information to make sure that the right versions are there. They have a whole bunch of templates that you can make use of. And they do have some support for VMware. For those of you that are running any Java application servers, they do have support for the JMX stuff as well. The product does support inventory. I haven't really looked at it yet to see how much is discoverable. It's not one of the major things that I'm concerned about at present. Let me see. All right. So this is the Zabbix dashboard.
So before you go on, okay.
Sure.
So you get the VM serve as a service, and then you put an agent on all those VM and
you can put a Zabbix agent on your VM.
Okay, and then you report it to this service.
Yeah. Yes. So this service is in-house, right? This is a VM image that I downloaded from them running in-house. You can get agents for each of the different OSs and install them on all your boxes.
And it's a free.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does give you a quick indication of things that are where there are problems. Some of the counting for them is a little bit weird sometimes, I think, where I have 2 warnings here and then only 1 problem, though it's reporting 3 problems. So there's some counting issues, I think, right now with it. And then it'll give you a series of issues that you have as part of their dashboard. One thing that I do like about this is that they actually give you the ability to look at sort of what your SLA is and how well you're meeting that. So I put in a half-second response time for web servers, and so we're seeing right now that 3% of the time, roughly, we're not hitting that. So this is kind of an interesting tool that I haven't seen in other things that I've looked at. I have run across an issue with it right now where its discoverer process is constantly busy, which is suggesting that there's something not quite right with what it's doing. But I haven't gone to look at it more and figure out why it's constantly busy now. As I said, there's let me go back. Their overview pages I haven't found them super useful. The web stuff I kind of like, in that it'll generate, the bottom graph is response time, top graph is download speeds. So you can kind of see how quickly things are working or not. And what you can do is you can construct a series of steps that you want it to go and do. And so let me go back to there's a series of steps where it goes and it hits the first page, it logs in, it checks the result of the login, log out, that kind of thing. So that's theirs is a series of steps of logging in and logging out of the Zabbix application just to make sure that it's working reasonably well. Mine was just a series of queries to different web servers because I was playing at the time.
So this Zabbix service, basically, it comes as a VM image, and it essentially turns one of the VMs into a network appliance, right? And it's entirely web front end?
It isn't.
In terms of...
I can't say for sure whether there are other tools for it. I mean, I can email it, there's a Linux backend, OpenSUSE backend, so you can SSH to the box and do whatever you want to it.
It's just a VM appliance. You can install it. RPM. I installed it.
Yeah, there are RPMs as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And it uses all the basic standard network monitoring tools. So you can tie into that geos.
Right, that's the back end part where it'll just jibber jabber with your internal stuff. But as far as actually getting stuff out of it, it's usually the web front end. There's no...
They probably have a lot of
There's a command line tool.
Yeah,
and there's mobile device clients for it as well to talk to this, so you can get those your alerts there. I haven't looked at that very much yet. Okay. But in any case, it was an interesting tool. You were talking with people over in IT, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a number of people that apparently are using this around campus already. It has the concept of users, so you can actually set up read-only views for them, so that if it's really want to present something to researchers, they can see their portion of the information depending upon how you structure things.
Michael, can you create event triggers where it can then do, say, a corrective action?
Actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're multi-step actions as well, so that if you don't get a response to something or it doesn't get corrected in a certain amount of time, a second event or a second action can be done.
Oh, okay.
At least that was my interpretation. Again, haven't played with it enough to be able to say for certain you can do that.
I can see where he's going to go. How far along the hook go?
Well, I'm just wondering,
Holy
it's more
Grail.
say like your configuration management, David's like whether it be Chef, CFN, Chef, Puppet, whatever, where based on your events and say the length of time, if you can create a set of actions where it's like, okay, I want to re-trigger my Think server to do this. and kill whatever it is.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it enough to find out whether you can run scripts through it and stuff like that.
I was just curious though.
Yeah, in Zabbix on their website right now, their business model is they give away the software for free and they sell service.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Great custom.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So it looks interesting, and as I've said before, we're looking at something other than Intermapper. So I think that this is probably what we'll look at first, just to see where that takes us. Stephen went through a whole bunch of the Holy Grail stuff, where the gaps are. He showed me his slides earlier. So I can't say that there's really anything that I have to add to that. We have the same kinds of problems. One of the things we haven't done is decided that the view from outside is something that matters as much to us. But in terms of direction from department, that is something that we need to look at. What's the image that the department wants us to be presenting to the world? And if the web service is a key part of that, we have to make sure that the outside world is getting that material. So for us, future plans, kind of the upgrade or retire of Intermapper. I've looked very briefly at the 5.9 version of it. Still missing a bunch of the things that I'd like to see. I briefly played with an OSSEC and ELK installation. I haven't quite figured out some of the visualization aspect and how important that is on your logs. But it does have the ability. It certainly has the ability to go and query and how many of these events happened in this period of time, or if this event happened, tell us about it. So that functionality is there, but you do have to go for any of this kind of stuff. You need to go in and tell it what you care about when you're looking at system logs. I will note, for those of you that have been, talking to IT and have been saying, I have no idea what this service is actually doing in the back end, and it's really making it hard for us to know what's going on. They're starting to hear that. We were in a meeting with Miranda Chu and Bob McDonald from the networking side earlier this week, and as they're moving forward with their changes and StatSeeker, they're definitely hearing the need for them to be providing more information to people, even if it's a view only, so that you have some idea of your connectivity out to the world and how busy is that link, so that hopefully there's going to be more information coming. Systems group, we keep telling them the same thing, where particularly with the filers, having no visibility into that back end and having our storage there really makes it hard for us to tell where the issue is when people are seeing slowdowns. So I think they're hearing it. Keep telling them that you need to see it. One of the things that I'm curious about being able to provide is sort of that end user view into what's happening right now. How good is the back end system, or all the invisible things that they just depend on? How well is that running? Is it all up? Do we have issues? Presenting it through an internal website. REST APIs seem to be a very interesting way of being able to get a bunch of this information and provide it. Be interesting to see whether some of these tools start being able to provide that kind of an API to go in and say, what's the state? Would be very useful. I haven't looked for that information on Zabbix, for instance. And for us, getting into that information about what's important, get it away from our view and much more a department being able to tell us what we should be concerned about, what they want us to be providing as the top tiers of support.
Yeah, you mentioned systems giving REST API views for querying them. 389 Directory Server is working on a REST API. They're actually right in the middle of figuring out what they're going to provide, so that you can query the actual daemon and say what's going on.
Yeah. love to see that from some of the web services as well.
Yeah.
And being able to see detailed information about what's going on. Yes?
I notice both of you use Google Analytics. Is that probably part of what you're trying to say about system, or is it more of a
It's an application side of the monitoring, right? Is, Google Analytics gives you a whole lot of information. If you haven't looked at it before, take a look. It's really quite amazing how much information they can provide you.
In terms of service, or in terms of, like, it's more toward the people who are content providing. What are people interested in, or where it's going, or is it much more deeper than that? It actually goes right into monitoring. Like, in other words, people are disappearing because it's so slow, or I don't know how we would infer that.
Traffic coming in and out of the site, and it analyzes all that. And in terms of monitoring, it'll just tell you how quickly they got to the page and how long they stayed and where they went.
So it's more like coming in fact, rather than
not the system.
There's actually technical.
What also, this is an audience thing too. As one has to be, say, particularly as we spin up more VMs, and many of these VMs are web-based, a lot of them, where they have a web component. Having kind of some insight, Google provides a great tool that just gives you very good metrics in terms of geography, who's viewing it, which networks are viewing it, what kind of response rates. If you pushed out a new service, who really is looking at that service? Are you getting ideal eyes on that information? So as you start to, say, structure your services, your service delivery, say, okay, this page or this information is really being underutilized. How can we improve that? So, but from a...
Sorry. Go. So there is, to some extent, a system side to it. We had an instance last fall where some new service, I have no idea what it was, started presenting themselves as a Mac OS client. And they were whacking our site quite hard, actually. And all of a sudden, the amount of Mac queries was 30, 40, 50% of our traffic when normal is 14, 15. Right, and so there's some tools there that just fall out of it because of information that it has. Right, and that's what led us down the path of being able to figure out what was actually hitting us.
So, but that only focused to the web thing.
Yeah.
Now, talking back to, you talk about some of these software use the API from the REST to query. Do they invent a new tool or use like Nestat or Trace or Trace or something?
None of these tools that I'm aware of are using REST APIs to retrieve stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I think what I'm looking for, I will be looking for tools that provide that, because I think that there is value in us being able to query our system monitoring stuff and present a view to our users.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at using REST in other places as well, and so as we start doing that, being able to have a common foundation for things that we're doing makes sense to me.
The other thing, if I could just add, the other thing with that too is also the sort of the security component is where you don't necessarily want to give your community or say joining service access to be able to run these tools.
Don't get me wrong, okay?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you have an API that talks to the back-end tool, that existing tool that like dtrace or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And from there you pull into a log server somewhere, and the REST API can read from that logs and present it back to the end user.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting.
That would be cool.
Yeah? Yeah. So that's the tool we're looking for.
Don't have it yet. Sorry, Anthony was gonna.
So part of using REST is that it's really easy to instrument anything to do it. That's particularly if you've got Python, you just fire up an HTTPS server through Python and you watch a process, and then anybody that talks to you say, "Yep, it's fine." And so for us to do that, or for a vendor to do that, and then we can already use REST to monitor, right? Because you can always say, is this URL? Am I getting this response from it? Done. So this is something that I know IT does in various places. And a lot of times it's the REST is running on another port somewhere that has different access restrictions that watches the actual service that has more restrictions on it or something like that.
Yeah, well, the second half of my question about Google Analytics and any service that you have a component that lies outside your control, is there any gotchas in terms of privacy that you are actually, exporting information that really shouldn't be out there? Like if Google Analytics could see every query of what your clients are making, you could, in fact, from the very nature of the request, give away certain types of information. Is that a concern, or is there anything that you had to sort of modify?
So I will say that I'm not the person to ask about it. I just know that Renee's using them.
That would be particularly say for third-party services like that's cloud and any kind of monitoring third-party. Yeah, that'd be a definite consideration that one would have to investigate and say, well, okay, is it established, well documented? What exactly are they pulling? And Google Analytics, I believe, have an extensive document exactly what they pull.
I've only seen it through the Drupal module, and there's a lot of things you can turn off that you don't want to discover. So definitely, you are exposing way more information by leaving those things checked. So when default installation, you are exposing more information, and it's whether or not the information you're getting back is balancing that in terms of value for you. And
well, I mean,
if you don't want to use it,
there are certain things that are by legislation you can't export it if it leaks personal private information or something like that. I mean, it's a no-go, right? And I just wondered whether you run into this issue.
This is a good question, because a lot of our website new now, people, they have asked, should we use or not? And frankly, I don't have an answer.
Sure.
This is a very good discussion. That should or should not every department, new website going to use it or not, and why, right? And we should have the document for that too, right? So.
And then the other thing too is, and that's where access control and Larry's office would really need to bite into, right? As much as one loves or hates.
It does have to do everything with the configuration, and you use any cloud service for an internal tool or somewhat internal whatever. You've got to read the documentation. You've got to know what's doing, because with Google Analytics, you absolutely have full control over what they get, because you're putting a JavaScript and on your files. The stuff that gets queried by a client, and then the client gives certain information to Google, and you control what information that it's pulling out of it. But you really got to know what you're doing and be able to trust Google in some ways too.
the other side of it is that they're already aware of a large amount of information about your site. If you just go in and have a look at the domain that you write.
Yeah, the fact that you're also downloading an agent as well, there has to be a bit of...
But that would just go with any, whether it's some Debian package or RPM package, it wouldn't matter, right? So there is still some unfortunate level of trust is you have.
Well, your website has public information anyways, right?
Not all of it.
Well, then
because there's going to be an internal portal part.
Presenting that to Google Analytics, your internal sites, right? So public websites are public, right?
Best way is to look at mitigation. Is just how you can, the gain of using, say, a freely provided service, and what you can are exposing on the web. Period.
So back to Michael. What's your plan with this one? What's the next step for this one?
What's for Zabbix?
No,
for
this side. Yeah.
Well, sorry. No,
I'm interested in Zabbix, right? So I'm looking forward to the next level. Your demo, basically. Yeah.
So fair enough.
Yeah,
so I think that one of the things with Zabbix, there's two aspects of Zabbix that I need to look at. Right now, it grabs way more information than I care about. And, when it does SNMP queries of network interfaces, there's all kinds of information that you get from an SNMP probe that has nothing to do with utilization of a link or anything like that, right? Admin status is a little bit interesting. The aliases of the interface names aren't really, though they might be in the context of KVM hosts, right? So, there's a lot more digging that I need to do about how to make use of some of this information. I think I'm going to start with it mostly in terms of our web services that we have, because right now Intermapper lives outside our network, in ISIS's network, and I get what I feel are a lot of delays from it. And whether it's the existing hardware that it's on or whether it's our FWSM context that's on an extremely busy FWSM, I don't really know. I see a lot fewer blips in terms of web content delivery from the Zabbix server that I'm running. So there's some stuff that I need to look at there and figure out what's going on. Definitely looking at putting more things in it. But that has some implications to making changes to some of the servers that we have for SNMP access from where this box lives, and a bunch of stuff. So expanding out the use of it, trying to figure out where things are useful, look at it in terms of the graphing information that they have and notifications.
How well does it scale for performance?
Don't know yet. Their suggestions are it scales quite well, but I don't know whether that's SNMP, whether that's making use of their own agent, exactly what it is.
So that'd be a couple hundred hosts? Or?
Don't know. I really can't say.
If you go on their web, it's in the thousands, but who knows?
Yeah, and again, totally dependent upon the hardware that you run it on too, right?
Yeah. You say you tried OSSEC, whatever it's called, the Syslog thing?
The OSSEC, yeah.
You tried it somewhere?
We're actually running it in-house.
Been on a lot of machines? Or?
Pretty much all of our staff-supported machines, so we're talking several hundred.
Okay. And how useful has it been?
We started looking. We started looking at it mostly from a SSH. Okay, vast majority of our boxes are running. Well, not vast majority. A large majority of our boxes are running SSH daemons, which our researchers have insisted be open. And so we started looking for something that would allow us to do intrusion detection kind of stuff, so brute force root attacks, things like that, and block them, and we're blocking them at the FWSM. So we ran across OSSEC, have the agents and all of the logging data going back to a central place that then goes out and looks at this data and says, oh, this one box has hit almost all of the machines in your department. Turn them off. Have clients, have individual boxes not talk to them anymore through IP tables, and we put in an extra piece to actually tell our FWSM to shun them. Don't talk to them at all, not even on SSH.
I'm interested in that. You have a sort of reactive system that will...
Yeah. It's not quite fast enough.
Don't you just use fail-to-ban?
Fail-to-ban will do individual boxes. Fail-to-ban does not do across boxes.
That's right.
Right? And so what we were looking for is something that says, well, they already hit, our first 3 subnets. Get the rest of them before he talks to us.
So you should get that. So you have from milking the logs, right?
Sure, but I need something to go out and do the work of shutting it off. So this is effectively what doing that work for us.
So it doesn't centralize the logging. It does.
It does.
It does as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you still have OSSEC on each machine.
Yes, there's an agent on each machine that's the piece that'll go and it'll go and tell it run IP. Don't talk to this machine anymore. Ban that box.
Oh, so you have 2 components, one per host and one at the choke at your firewall? I mean, why do you need both? If you detect it reaches a threshold, try it on 20 different machines.
Because not
all.
Not everything that we have that might be SSH capable is OSSEC capable. Right? And so if I fail it at the firewall, it's not going to talk to anything. And we just did it on the machines as well because it's simple. It was all, it's built in to do it.
Also, I guess it would also help protect your interior,
Yep.
your interior network in case it was compromised. It's not going to affect your other machines.
We have
From
filter
internal
tables
paths.
on the firewall,
Yes.
so then the host IP tables become more important.
Does that have an impact on your firewall performance?
Not that we're aware of, because it's the shun tables in the firewalls, and so it happens super early. So
Okay, so going
your
back
mileage
to-
may vary.
okay.
Sorry.
The idea of all of this is to, one of the aims is to proactively deal with problems before it become, but have you found in practice, looking back and installing this, how effective it has in, because we still have the old-fashioned alert. Someone calls me up, hey, something's not working, and it works really well. But
There's certain things that
you still get like 10% of your things, or it's still,
again, a lot of it depends on how well you tailor what it's looking for.
yeah.
Right? We've certainly come across machines with failing drives before the people ever told us anything about it, right? Because system logs are pretty good about telling you that a drive's failing. And so those kinds of things it's definitely been useful for. There can be a lot of noise from it. You do certain kinds of upgrades or new release of an OS, and they change logging formats for no apparent reason. And so you then have to go and change something because of the change in log format. Right? So there's things like that. Has it saved us time? Yeah, it's arguable. My staff will argue that it
Yeah.
hasn't.
I mean, in the end, this is what you want, right?
Yeah.
This is something that you both win. Your
Yeah.
users get better quality of service, and you get to spend less
Yeah.
time worrying about it.
The staff will argue that it hasn't is also, I think it's symptomatic of perhaps of the number of machines that we have too that we're supporting, and we support our researchers' desktops. So not everyone is doing that. There definitely can be a lot of noise, and you need to be proactive about going and making it quiet. You're going to ask something?
And I was just curious, when you mentioned logging formats, has like journal control and system D messed up any of that up, or got modules for it already?
No, it hasn't been anything like that. It's mostly things like I think SSH made a change at one point about how they were logging something, and so there were a bunch of things that came through from that. There's certain system D, probably has introduced a lot of noise that appeared at one point, which we now say we don't care about.
Yeah, and by we don't care about it, we write a lot of regular expressions.
Yeah, but if it's like system D, if you turn on the system D way, you don't appear syslog anymore, right?
Oh.
Gone. You get some weird binary logging thing.
Right. Well, we haven't done that yet.
Most of the
We're
stuff
still getting text log files.
Yeah.
So have you ever run into the problem of the NFS got locked up? The entire machine still working, okay? You go in, as a root, you still can go in. But as a user, it locked up NFS mount. Can your system detect that and report to you?
Unless it gets logged into a system log, no, it's not going to. Right.
It's generated error in the log.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the user VM, right?
I know, but
So
it
we
can't.
don't have this fancy system like you guys do it. So
You have to construct the eyes to look for.
You said the problem. The system can't see the problem.
Yeah, so no, it won't. This won't do it. And the only question is, do you have some other kind of an agent running on a box that can run you a job that will tweak that by the fact that it didn't run or got stuck would tell you that something's wrong.
Do you run any sort of Windows adapter to syslog? I think there are some that will turn events into syslog messages, and it's that way you can sort of consolidate this sort of information collection.
No, we don't. OSSEC has a Windows client that we've been having mixed results with. Sometimes it goes wild, and we don't know why. Windows, I would say, is probably our worst place right now in terms of dealing with logs and event logs.
So this morning I met a person in IT services. They have a software that can do the log read, and they know where the log are in the Windows, right? So you can just run the software locally and then query the logs, and then I just met him this morning, so I haven't tried yet. But there is a software to do just pure just.
There's a script that dumps the event logs to syslog format.
Yeah,
Or
I don't think it's a difficult thing to write,
No,
just
no,
to
it's
intercept
just-
events.
You just have to get in the Windows space, and
Yeah.
if you don't like that's
Yeah. But Windows are very chatty boxes. That's one thing we have definitely noticed from them.
Just wait until you see Windows 10.
Yeah.
10 times the amount of messages.
No, there's 10 times different messages.
It's all
It's everything. Their security paradigm is completely different now. It's just,
Yeah.
even GPOs are getting phased out.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Good. Nice. I go to that.
Network monitor is like, if you're looking for
So next month we come back with the second parts.
No, it won't be next month.
No, next month is over with Dabber.
Okay, for the old one, the new one we get now.
Down where you